Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we got a real fun one. You know, we've been killing it with interviews recently, and today is...
Why not add to it?
Right? It's no different. Today we're joined with Gustav, the game producer for Demeo and Demeo Battles. So this is one of our favorite, now you can say, series in VR with multiple games. Yeah. But before we fanboy out too much, Gustav, do you want to introduce yourself a bit more to the listeners and also tell them, I mean, if somehow they don't know what Demeo is?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. So, as you said, I'm a producer at Resolution Games. We launched Demeo and Demeo Battles, among a lot of other titles. I've been with the company since pretty much the beginning, so soon to be 9 years, actually. I've been working with VR, and a lot of that time with social VR products, which Demeo is, right? It's a 4-player co-op RPG dungeon crawler, I would call it. And the Demeo Battles is a spin-off where 2 players are pitted against 2 other players in a PvP action mayhem.
So since you said pretty much the start, 9 years at Resolution Games. Wow, that's
insane. So 9 years in VR. Has it been 9 years with Resolution?
Yeah, exactly. Resolution was my first VR, or like my first stint in VR. I had tried it before at previous companies, but that was the first time I started working the games.
What were you doing right before?
I was working on Facebook games, mobile games, web-based games mostly. So I was at King just before Resolution, working on Candy Crush among other things.
Candy Crush.
Yeah, that's a pretty big title, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one to have on the resume.
And that's not the first time that we've heard that kind of pipeline of starting with mobile app games, you know, years ago, then
Flash games, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then transitioning over to VR games. But how did you discover VR, and what made you decide, you know, you wanted to start working in it professionally?
Yeah, so I had this idea for a game I wanted to make, a fishing game. And I'd been nagging everyone I worked with for like, I guess, 10 years at that point, including our CEO, Tommy. Then one day he called me and said that he had founded a VR studio and he thought that a fishing game would be a great combination, like VR and fishing. So then I joined and we made the bait together. That was Resolution's first game. And that was my first foray into VR.
It's a great game. It still holds up.
Right out of the gate, you know, it's one thing to like get in there, but usually people make a project that may not even get recognized. But that's a good one to come out of the gate with.
Yeah, and really shows the potential for social VR. You know, that's something that makes experiences like Demeo and Demeo Battles. So
Demeo is crazy good.
Yeah,
since day one, and it's just grown and grown.
And so you worked as the producer for Resolution Games, but, you know, at what point did Demeo come out on the roadmap for Resolution Games? At what point, you know, how did that game come to be? Was that another one of your ideas, or was that something that came up, you know, as a team effort in the studio?
Yeah, so, I mean, at that point, that was a few years after we launched Bait, right? We were working closely with Facebook, building games for their the Spaces platform, if you remember that. It was their first social VR thing. So we were working on a few titles. One of them was Cookout that I was producing, and then Demeo as well. I think the original idea was like our CEO Tommy and Mike Booth that was heading up the social VR teams at Facebook at the time. We worked really close. Started like figuring out the possibilities of Spaces as a platform. And that was 4 people in a room standing around the table. We actually launched one game for that, a spin-off of Bait. But then I guess they decided to go another direction with the product, and we decided to publish Demeo ourselves. So that was like the start of Demeo, I would say.
I'm so glad that that's how things played out, because I think Demeo is made for VR. It feels so good in VR, and it's one of these shining examples that board games and tabletop gaming in general works in VR. And still to this day, I'll push that we should have more of those style games. And then the people will be hesitant, and then later say that they can't wait to go play Demeo. It's like, no, it works. It's great. And Demeo's a shining example of that. You know, what was I don't want to say the reception internally, but what were the thoughts about doing something tabletop in VR as a big game for the studio? Was there kind of some internal resistance, or was everybody like, this is going to be a hit?
No, I would say the opposite, actually. Like, everyone here is a gamer. A lot of people at Resolution have been playing this type of game, both as a physical product, right, as board games, but also like the RPG dungeon crawler, like fantasy games. That's very popular genre, obviously, right? So I know there are some people that prefer to work on more, like, I wouldn't say immersive, because I think Demeo is a very immersive title, but more where you're actually moving around using your body, like more first person than centered on the table, for instance. But no, I think everyone was super psyched about Demeo already from the out of the gate.
That's awesome.
Well, it should also be recognized that not only is it like a tabletop game, but it has always run perfectly. The attention to detail in it, like the first time we ever looked underneath a piece and saw that there was even something there, we couldn't freaking believe.
Made in Sweden.
Yeah,
such a nice little detail.
But so it's like the combination of all those things, I think, is what make it really special, versus if someone just came out and was like, here's a board game, but it was kind of flat in a sense, where there's a lot going on in Demeo.
Yeah, and something that, you know, I have to give huge props to Resolution Games for with Demeo is, you know, when Demeo came out, it was one map, and it was great. We loved it. It was our first ever episode of Ruff Talk VR. We gave it a great score. We were like, this game is amazing. And since then, there has been map after map after map, and update, and now there's even a PvP spinoff. So the growth of Demeo in what was a great game already, with more and more content, has been amazing.
You buy it today, you're getting a totally different package.
Totally different. But
get
now
the paint figures, hang out.
But now there's a spin-off, Demeo Battles, PvP. You know, that's such a different direction than the normal cooperative gameplay of Demeo. I mean, how did this idea come to be, where you guys decided, screw it, let's go left and let's make this competitive?
Yeah, no, I mean, it started as I would say like pretty much like a game jam game, or like just a quick prototype. See if there was something there. It was something we've been talking about. Maybe we could do. And then one of the developers put something together. That was pretty much the how it all started. And then I think when we play tested it, it was already then 2v2 in the very first prototype. And we had so much fun. So we instantly knew there is something here. We really should take this become a full-blown next step in like the Demeo franchise, pretty much. It was fairly instant, I would say. And I would say like one of the things that I think that Battles really like one of the strengths is so while Demeo is entirely co-op, Battles is actually both co-op and competitive, right? You can play it 2v2 and you can have a really good time with your friend at your side, and you're like still scheming, still talking, still coming up with strategies. That's a big part of the fun. It's still fun to play alone, controlling two heroes, but I think it really shines when you get that co-op element into it, I'd say.
No, I agree. And that was actually something I wanted to ask you as well. If you prefer to play solo controlling 2 players, or if you prefer having a partner, but it sounds like you like the cooperative element more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when I think it really shines. But yeah, I mean, if I just go into the game and hit the quick play queue, sometimes I get matched on one side. It's still a fun game, right? It's just I don't know. I really like that. I'm not that competitive. I'm more in for the fun. I guess if you're super competitive, maybe you're like a bit of a control freak. You want to play controlling both heroes. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've always enjoyed playing cooperatively online more than.
Yeah. You are a control freak.
Yeah, you know, but I still
playing
like
with people online.
but I still like to.
You should
have
do
a
this.
buddy.
You should do that.
Hey, you know, I'm not gonna say nothing.
I gotta call you out on it. It's the funniest thing ever.
Hey, you know, you see something going wrong, you're like, yeah, that's not a good idea. You know, that's gonna go negative for sure. But so I gotta ask, you know, what are your favorite characters to use for Demeo and Demeo Battles?
Yeah, so I tend to always play Guardian. That's my go-to the characters actually. And then in terms of playstyle, I really like playing Assassin as well. Especially now when you play in battles and you go, you sneak and you're actually hidden from the other team. I really like that aspect of it. Right? It's really fun to sneak around.
It's funny you say that because I've noticed in battles that's a much more effective character for strategy than necessarily when you're playing a map against, you know, monsters with someone.
Yeah.
Because that's when I see people giving the hardest fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, shit. I mean, they're gone. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, but I gotta say, I'm a guardian guy as well. Being able to rejuvenate, you know, your full shield every single turn is such a nice advantage. You know, but a couple bad, you know, you get placed wrong. That assassin comes up behind you, starts damaging you. You know, with double for the backstab, it can get ugly fast, even with that shield. So no, those are 2 really, really good cards. But you know, was the intention always for Demeo Battles to be its own standalone title, or was that something that came up, you know, midway through the development? It's something that you realized that had to be done.
So I guess we weren't entirely sure, and we did some early communication where, like, I guess some players took it as it was going to be like a DLC. I don't think that was ever really a possibility. I think it was more of a misunderstanding internally, maybe. So because we wanted to be able to run with this and not be slowed down by the development of Demeo. If it was part of the same, especially when you're building a PvP game, balancing is very important. It can be important to do really fast, like patching and like fixing issues, right? Because it's actually people losing matches because of some glitch or error, and so we didn't want either game to be dependent on the other in terms of when we can release. I would say that was a major part of it, at least. So,
yeah, that's what I've been saying the whole time. Is how do you balance with 8 different maps? You know, all of a sudden you add a competitive mode that probably has its own gameplay balancing and stuff. How do you balance all that properly to be a fair competitive environment without nerfing anything in the other 8 existing maps? And then, geez, that sounds like a situation that even if you get it to work, it's like never update it. No, don't touch it because it's going to break, you know? So I think for the best of the game, it had to be its own standalone title.
It was when I played Demeo Battles that it all made sense as to why it needed to be its own. I think I even had commented on it that I'm like, I get it. It's its own thing. Demeo can be Demeo and it can grow in its own way. And now you've got this spinoff of Battles, which I made the assumption that would kind of grow and could have added elements down the road similar to Demeo did. So I have faith in the company to, you know, what they've done with Demeo over the past couple of years is absolutely ridiculous. So I would expect continued growth with battles as well.
I'd rather two great games than either watering down the PvP mode or watering down the main game to fit in both
does make sense
into one game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said there with the balancing, right? It's we did have to do so. Our like one of the design goals was to stay as close to Demeo as possible, because there's a lot of combinatorics in the gameplay that we wanted to keep, because that's what keeps the game like interesting, and you can always figure something out. And it's everything from the stuff that most people know, that you can like ignite gas and hurt your opponent, for instance, just as an example. But so yeah, we wanted to keep that. But then as we were play testing, we do a lot of play testing, right? Twice a week, the entire team plays the game. There were a few things that we realized we would have to change compared to regular Demeo. And some of them were more of like it was for some characters had like standard cards that they would have from the beginning, that where they could like one shot, one kill an opponent without even rolling a crit, for instance. We felt that was a bit too overpowered, so we had to nerf some of the abilities. That was one thing. And then some of the monsters we had to change slightly as well, because a lot of it wasn't built with PvP in mind, right? So we have done some of those changes, but we tried to stay as close to the original as possible, I'd say. But changing even a little change, like in like the AI for how a rat moves, could easily make the Rat King adventure be like double as hard in regular Demeo. Just as an example of like so we cannot really like all those changes can't go back into regular Demeo, obviously.
100%. No, I'm actually glad that it's its own title, because like I said, it allows both to shine as much as possible. But do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the, I guess, challenges and balancing that you had to do, whether that's nerfing one character, making a monster more or less powerful? You know, I think our listeners will enjoy hearing some of those balancing.
Yeah, I mean, it's balancing. It's also like overall the entire game structure. Like in the beginning, we didn't have the burn. So as long as both players or both sides were going after each other and like trying to have a fair fight, it was quite fun. But then someone, I guess it was probably a game designer, because it's always game designers ruining stuff. I'm kidding. Like figured out some strategy of like staying away. So some games started to be more of like the minions or the monsters rush to the center, they kill each other, you use all your cards, all the chests are empty, and now it's just two heroes running around trying to kill the other. So we realized that was not a good pacing for the game. We needed something to concentrate the gameplay. So we added you get like a card every other turn. Both sides get a card, and we added the burn to concentrate everything towards the middle. So that was one of the things that came out of play testing, and that not that much about balancing though. So I guess a good example of balancing. So we had to change the fireball, for instance, in regular Demeo. It's called firebolt in battles because it was a bit too powerful, right? We also had cards like the freeze card for the wizard that was like ever present. It was cheap, and you always found it in the store. So we had to make it more expensive. We had to make it less likely to show up, like more of a once in a game or once in 2 games kind of card, because being frozen as an opponent is not a fun experience all times. And I had a game where I didn't move for the entire time. I didn't move because I played against 2 wizards and they were just freezing me out, right? So we realized this doesn't fly. But there's like hundreds of those examples of like stuff we had to hone, I would say.
I'd be so angry if my whole game was me just stuck every single turn.
The first 2 turns would probably be, it'd be cute, it'd be funny, and then it's like, all right,
I want to play.
All right, guys. All right. You know? And that's something that you only find out through trial and error, you know, whether that's play testers or the general public or
someone will figure out it.
Yeah, people like to win. So if there's a way to cheese and win, people are gonna cheese. That's for sure. But how long did the entire process of developing Demeo Battles take? Was this a several year thing?
Yeah, I would say it was, but with different levels of intensity from time to time, right? Because we were knee deep in Demeo development from time to time as well. And so sometimes it was a bit smaller team, but I think like calendar time, it was probably a bit north of 2 years from the first prototype. I would say.
Was it the entire Demeo team working on this as well, or was it like a completely separate team?
No, it was its own team. For obviously, there's crossovers between the teams, but it's been its own team.
Nope. I love when people say that because I know consumers love to hear that their favorite game is not being torn apart for people to go work on other. So it's great to hear that separate teams, but yes, some crossovers for talent needed in other areas. So I get it.
Mm-hmm. In Resolution Games, you guys are workhorses. You have Demeo Battles going, and then right around the corner, there's Racket Club too. So Resolution Games, you know, workhorses to say the least. But do you have any tips for new players who are going into Demeo Battles and getting, you know, absolutely smoked?
Mollywopped.
That is a good question, actually. I mean, spend your money, right? Don't save it for later. That would be one thing. And then I guess it's always good to go for the chests, right? So, like, I sometimes try to like bum rush to all the chests to get there before my opponent. But yeah, it's tricky, right? How do you succeed? Maybe practice some in the single player mode. I think that could be a good way to get started in the game as well, right? Picking up some strategies. I know I learned some strategies from playing those single player levels.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that for somebody that never played Demeo before. You know, it gives them something to go into.
Well, you know what's tough about, and I love the question of what advice do you have for Demeo Battles, because it would be different advice than what do you have for Demeo. But what really makes it difficult to answer is you have a human opponent, so you don't know how they're going to play. Are they playing offensively? Are they playing defense? And, you know, I think of it like chess, and it's like, what advice do you have to be good at chess? It's like,
play a lot. Just go in and
better play a lot and learn a strategy that works for you. So it's like, that's a great question though, because ironically, I don't think anyone can give you a definitive answer as to what's going to work for you,
and especially with Demeo
even with
Battles,
character picks, you know.
Well, then there's different variables too, like different maps. You know, your strategy on one map might be totally different than another map. You go, oh, I know there's going to be those 2 chests right there.
Correct.
So when you go into a game, is your normal, I guess you could say, strategy is boom, first thing you go for the chest. You know, if we were to play, what's your go-to maneuvers, just so I know how to win.
Yeah, so I mean, I really like the slimes, and I tend to, if I find them, buy all the small slimes I can find, and maybe a big one, and then hope they just multiply and spread their slime across the map. That's one of my favorite strategies. It's quite easily to get countered with just a bottle of lye, like a 0 action point card. So another thing that can be quite fun, that I've actually won quite a few games with is to, if you find a regroup card early, just buy that, and then every single critter you can find, you just buy them, like buy everything, and then you just straight to the center of the map and just regroup, and you have your like a whole like a wall of flesh around your two heroes at the center of the map. That could be quite fun, actually. It's very easily like it's sensitive to the player having like a Heaven's Fury or a Halo Arrows, but still fun.
So you prefer to go with like a lot of little enemies instead of the big ogres or cave trolls, that kind of stuff?
Especially for that strategy, I would say go for like cheap units, like quantity over quality, I would say. But actually, like thinking about it, like a beginner tip, I would say the community in battles is very friendly for the most part. There's obviously exceptions to that rule, so I would say play multiplayer, especially if you get teamed up with someone. You will get a lot of helpful hints. I played quite a few games where I'm just like pretending to have never played the game and let someone guide me through it, just to see what they say. It's quite fun, and everyone is super friendly from what I've seen, at least. So I think that's my number one tip to a new player. But I do get if it's a bit nervous to play like a PvP game online, the first thing you do. So practicing can also be.
Well, the campaign's good too because it's scenarios. It's not just run the same match over and over again, which you can play against bots too. You know, that's a great way to learn, but the scenarios are really good in that campaign to
just at least get familiar with the cards, and then like the different, because you're not guaranteed the same purchases every time you play. So which ones are critical?
But being able to shuffle 3 times is nice. Just
as long as you hit shuffle and not continue.
Yeah, that's happened to you once or twice.
Yeah, I've hit continue. I literally would spend not a penny. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Oh, that's painful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a guaranteed loss.
See, for me though, nothing beats an elven priest.
Oh, if I see him,
I'll try to get
no
two
question about it.
2 in a round if I can, just so he can start to send out his little low-powered minions everywhere.
But I will try the slime monster there.
Yeah. There's been a couple matches that we've run into the slime monsters, and they can be challenging, to say the least.
Well, yeah, especially if they're spawning.
So, you know, you mentioned everybody in the office plays the game. I'm guessing there's been some competitive matches or just some overall fun with Demeo Battles, but I got to ask, who's the best player, or I guess players if it's a team in the office?
Yeah, so I'm not that person. That's for sure. We're running a tournament actually in the office right now, where a lot of people signed up, and it's a 2v2 and a 1v1 tournament, but it hasn't been concluded yet, right? So it's too early to say.
I guess
but
we'll
it seems
have an
like
answer
there's
to
at
it
least
soon.
someone from the Battles team is still in the running. So that's good. And I know that one of the finalists for the like single or like 1v1 tournament, he was also a finalist in the Racket Club tournament. So this guy is amazing, right? Both strategy and like physical sport games.
Wow.
Well, I love that. The studio actually playing the game, doing a internal.
I hope they post the results on socials.
I think we're going to stream.
Okay,
we're going to stream the finals, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope so, based on the resolution Twitch.
Ooh,
people already winning trophies for Racket Club. Already.
So then if, I got to ask, if there's an in-studio tournament, is there plans with Demeo Battles to do official community tournaments and leagues and that kind of stuff down the line?
Maybe. I mean, obviously, that's one of the things we're discussing. It's more a question of, so I think right now you can through Discord, it would be quite easy to set up something for like the from the community could do that. But like official support, I think we would have to look at what's out there, if we should build something on our own for tournaments. And we've been discussing different types of tournaments as well, like shorter, less, like fewer players in them. But then you have the brackets, they tend to grow quite a lot. Like they easily swallow 64 players for the first round, for instance. So then typically takes a bit more planning go through. So we're looking at different ways of doing this, I would say.
Well, at least on the local level, people can host their own
tournaments and stuff like that.
I kind of wouldn't mind seeing a 64 person Demeo Battles
or
tournament,
leagues,
all the teams,
or leagues with seasons.
Really cool.
You know, you think
so that's actually something. We're gonna launch the ranked mode after, like in the next year, sometime. So that will be the next like bigger update in terms of functionality to the.
And are you able to talk a little bit about what the ranked mode will be? Example will just be like, I guess a leaderboard. You know, what's the idea for it?
There's we haven't nailed the design entirely, so I would rather not say. But I think it's going to be awesome, especially for the competitive players out there.
Ooh, I'm excited. Ranked modes and stuff like that for a game like this is, it's huge because people go in. You know, the type of person that likes that feeling of winning. They also like some reward,
kudos for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I like even when getting levels up and stuff and getting new items to get like dice or.
Well, that was a great game design decision that every win and loss, I mean, I guess you get one key, but does it really even count, you know? But
No.
For all your wins, you get keys, which you can then use that's how you get the other characters. That's how you get new die, new attires,
yeah.
and most importantly, new maps. So that was a huge, a great gameplay decision. But what's the plans for post-launch? You know, obviously you mentioned next year, ranked mode, you know, is there plans for other new content, or is it mostly bug fixes for now? Not that there's bugs in general.
No, it's
just normal.
I think we're gonna add more content to the game, hopefully already this year.
So what's the reception been like for Demeo Battles since release? You know, did you nail all the balancing things, or were there a couple cheesy things that you missed with player strategies? You know, what's the post-release been like?
Yeah, no, so I would say, like, that's always a worry, right? You release one of these games and then it turns out there's like a dominating strategy that everyone pretty much have to play in order to win. We haven't seen that yet from our data, at least, which is good. And obviously we follow the chatter on Discord and Reddit, and we haven't seen anything like that clearly stands out. But we did find a few bugs. We had some. There is actually one of the levels in the game, or one of the arenas, I would say, that's actually you can't unlock it, and that was developer oversight. We just it's in the game, it's in the list, but you can't unlock it some way. So that's on us. Sorry about that, but yeah, it will show up eventually. It's always a scramble when you're launching a game, right? Especially such a complex product, and it's like, how do you weigh two bugs against each other, where one is gameplay and one is I don't know. I don't have a great example, but it's always you have to make some tough calls sometimes, and sometimes it goes too fast, I would say.
Well, I mean, we had early access to Battles,
and I didn't have any bugs.
Nope, didn't. I mean, there was a change after release, like a day or two after release. There was an update, and it was minimal change from a consumer standpoint. But I had no like noticeable bugs, no issues. I was already unlocking new arenas and stuff, so I'm curious which one I'm not going to be able to unlock if that's the case, or maybe by then it will. I'd gotten a new character. Yeah. So I mean,
the game functioned good on my end for sure.
Yeah. So sure. I mean, I always expect with any game, when they release it, that first week or two, that's when, I mean, yeah, games get tested, but not to the masses that are now going to have it in different headsets and different platforms. And
so I got to ask then, since we're talking about maps, what is your favorite map to play on?
That's a good question. So we had one map that's it's one of the Elven maps where the deployment zone is like an L shape. I don't remember what it's called now. Ah, damn it. But anyway, that was the first map. We were experimenting with different layouts for the arenas, and we had a playtest on that map. We realized that this is where we want to be with this game. So that became like our benchmark arena, I would say. So we decided that anything we add to the game, we have to playtest on this level. Otherwise, we can't say that it's good for launch. So this one has been. I'm always happy to be back on that, because that's the one that we played the most through development, and so I really like that one. Then the larger town level, I think it's called Market of Misery. I really like playing on that one as well, because it has quite a lot of strategic depth, with parts being walled off with magic walls. It's also a lot of the levels are symmetrical across the diagonal, but this one is across the length section, so you can spread out a bit more. I kind of like that layout.
And do you prefer to keep your characters close together or spread out? When I first started playing, I thought that I would always prefer to keep my characters together. So boom, we can 2v2 them or 2v1 them. Yeah. But I've recently noticed, I think I'm liking splitting up a little bit more.
Your own little mini battles.
Mm-hmm.
Both has its perks, right? If you are close together, you can rest each other if you get downed. So that's always good. I would say that's very situational for me. Like some games I stick together, some I split up. But I tend to split up a lot, actually. Just to be able to cover more ground, right? Get more chests.
I mean, I've gone into it with one plan, and then within a move or two, we're going our own direction. So I get it.
Yeah, you think you know what you're going to do until all of a sudden they drop a...
I do have a question, though. And that? You're okay to say I can't answer it. It's fine. I asked it of someone else almost a year ago and pretty much wasn't able to get an answer. But will it ever be coming to the Xbox system? On a flat
That's a
screen
very good
version?
Question. Yeah,
Since we do have the ability to play it PC flat screen, correct?
Yeah. I would not close that door, but as a VR studio, obviously I think it's great that, and I'm really happy with the way the 2D version of this game plays. But we have been focusing on platforms that has both VR and PC, or 2D, I would say. So I cannot confirm or deny. It's just
it's such a selfish question I ask, for no other reason.
No, but that's
how about you get
sense.
A PC, Bri?
Quest, that's VR, and then PC you have flat screen or VR capability. And same with PlayStation.
It looks great on a PC though.
Looks great on PlayStation too. Regular Demeos at least. Mm-hmm. So I get why, as an Xbox fan, you asked that, but maybe Xbox should get a headset.
I legit check this store every now and then and be like, I don't know, maybe they'll sneak in there, and get me some Demeo on Xbox.
That's funny.
Yep.
But Battles is actually coming to the PS VR 2 and PlayStation 5 flat screen as well next year.
Nice. So no official release date, just sometime in 2024.
Yeah. We're working on it. We have.
I figured PlayStation was getting it.
Yeah, it's always looked very clean on console, so that's great to hear that support for flat screen Demeo, I guess you could say, is continuing with Demeo Battles. And do you see, Demeo Battles reaching the same popularity and player count, or maybe even surpassing, as regular Demeo?
Yeah, I hope so. And I definitely think there's the potential there, right? So looking at the two games, Demeo is very much long play sessions are like an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe even more. It's more like you set up a board game for the night with your friends, right? And you're playing that game for the night. Battles has much more, it's more snackable content, right? Which I think is, it gives it a bit more potential for like a bigger audience, because I don't think everyone can commit to those long play times you have in Demeo, especially in multiplayer, right? You can always play skirmish in Demeo, but Battles is really like about just go in. We that was another North Star in development, was like playtime should be around 15 to 20 minutes. I would say we're right at that mark now for a round in Battles.
Yeah,
we loved the fact that you can, if you have 15 minutes, you want to squeeze in a game quick. There's no like, again, Demeo is a great game, but you did say it, and it's true. It's like
it's a battery killer.
You're not going to play multiplayer and be done in 20 minutes. There's just no freaking way. Then you're going to get distracted by, I got to see what's over there. So
whereas Demeo Battles is definitely much more quick.
Yeah, I love it. And I don't generally like those like time-based forced combat, world closing in on you, but it works. So I'm not complaining.
So I got one last thing that I'm dying to ask. With Demeo officially having a spin-off, does this mean that we might one day see more Demeo titles and an entire franchise of Demeo stuff, or is it kind of one day at a time?
So I can't really announce anything, but stay tuned, I would say.
Ooh,
that's
I'll take
cryptic
that.
enough.
Yeah.
Yep. That works.
I mean, we really like Demeo and the way it plays. So,
and there's so much potential for it, of like the, even more lore, and there's little, the characters have names. The main characters that you choose, they have a little bit of lore. All that could be even expanded more. If it never does, it's no problem at all either. But there's just so much potential.
If this was the 80s,
Demeo,
there would already be the Demeo cartoon series that would be playing.
The comic book.
The Demeo action figures you could get.
Yeah, the Demeo is one of those series that it has, jokes aside, it has that type of potential where you could just keep growing it. So I hope it continues to grow like that.
That was my guess. That was my prediction with Battles. We're going to see growth into it and investment into it, like we did Demeo, and then the sky's the limit. So
yeah, absolutely. But before we let Gustav out of here, is there anything else that you wanted to ask him?
It's such a repetitive thing. I go in sometimes with minimal stuff, and I leave with a notepad full of stuff, and you've got me excited to see what's coming in the future for sure. We've had faith in Resolution since literally day one. One of the reasons why we chose it to be our first ever episode to Let's Talk About Demeo, as hacky as that might sound, 2.5 years ago, whatever. But no, everything Resolution has put out is always
gold,
always spot on. Yeah, it's like one of the AAA studios of VR. It's no secret. And all the staff we've ever spoken to or met are always, just 100% enthusiastic, seem to really enjoy where they are. The company just keeps getting bigger.
On the cutting edge with hand tracking, mixed reality, co-location in Demeo and regular Demeo. That's
and I
huge.
loved hearing that the team is legit gamers who are,
doing in-house tournaments.
Yeah, man. It's a great company. I can't be grateful enough that you took the time to,
and again,
educate us a little as to the inner workings there.
Racket Club next month as well. What's that? December 14th, I think, or 16th?
14th, yeah.
14th.
Yep, that's coming.
I'm so
we
excited.
can talk about that for a minute. I don't know how much we can talk about. I mean, there's trailer you can see.
Yeah, I guess just one thing real quick. Did you work on Demeo and Racket Club as well, or just the Demeo side?
No, I was never on Racket Club that I can remember. I've been involved in most projects in some capacity or another, but not Racket Club directly.
Have you played it? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't have, so they had their tournament at the same time as we were like putting the last few things into battles. So I didn't have time to participate in the tournament. So my Racket Club skills are not super honed, but I'm guessing that's going to change in the near future.
We'll be seeing you with a sweatband on next time.
Yeah.
Ready to go. But that's awesome.
I mean, that game looks so cool, right? And then, like, just playing it is, it feels great.
Yeah, no, Resolution Games always delivers.
They have my trust.
And
I don't care what they put out. I'm probably going to jump on it.
And if somebody's, playing Demeo Battles, where's the best way for them to find other Demeo players? Would that be the Demeo Discord? And if so, how can they find that?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's the? I mean, it's just called Demeo, the Discord. We have the same Discord for Demeo and Demeo Battles actually. So there's like a battle section in it. But I'm not cool enough to know how to I guess if you search for Demeo, you will find it.
I'll throw the link for the Discord in the episode description of this episode too. So if anybody's listening, you want to go join the Demeo Discord and find some.
You can always find a player in their Discord to play with. There's no shortage of.
Yeah, some have a feeling if you Google Demeo Discord, it'll come up too.
There,
but I'll throw the link in the show notes too, so it's nice and easy.
I just know it's like it might be as discord.gg/Demeo actually, but I'm not entirely sure. So yeah.
No, my experience with the Demeo Discord has always been positive. Mm-hmm. The online community, when you're actually in game, you mentioned it. People are very helpful. It's a very mature community. I mean, think of the type of person that's going to be going and buying a tabletop VR game. It's probably not the 6-year-old Timmy. They're more mature players in general. So the Demeo community is great all around. But Gustav, I just want to say thank you for taking the time. Join us, chat with us a bit, educate us a little bit more on the making of Demeo Battles and what's coming next.
Thanks for having me.
Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. Like we said, Resolution Games, always one of our favorite studios. So definitely excited that you were able to join us today. And for any of the listeners, like I said, go join the Demeo Discord. Also doesn't hurt. Go join our Discord. Drop a little 5-star review for Demeo Battles on the store page too if you've been enjoying it. That stuff helps developers so much. And other than that, if you've been enjoying the episode, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.